Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Where the Axis Changes, our executive strategic briefing for the Global Accessibility Awareness Day 2026. The Awareness Day actually is tomorrow. We're just doing the webinar today because that's when we could get everyone on. I'm Alex Oliveira, and I'm going to be your host today. Thanks for spending this time with us. And whether you're joining us as an executive, a designer, an engineer, an advocate, or someone with lived experience, you belong in this conversation. Global Accessibility Awareness Day is a one-day-a-year event, but the work that we're going to discuss here is an event that happens all year round, and it is a shift in how organizations design, build, and lead. Now, I'm going to go right past the panel here, headshots, just so I can share with you. Last month, we did a webinar that covered the DOJ final rule mandates on WCAG and, the Adults, Americans with Disabilities Act for the digital ruling. So it was supposed to go into effect at the end of April. They have since extended it. I'm going to share the link with you guys here. We have been following it. Now they've moved it to April of 2027. They've moved a few dates. And the enforcement is real. And we're going to talk about some of that today. And all of this, guys, it impacts a global disability community representing 1.3 billion people and 1.9 trillion in disposable income. And the fact is, accessibility has moved from a nice to have to a board level conversation about risk, ROI, and reputation. And today we're going to cover those three topics: the strategic landscape, the cultural shift, and the lived experience that makes any of this real. You'll hear from three remarkable leaders: Lisa Stella, Emi Hutton, and Christopher Bylone, each bringing a different lens to the same mission: independence for all. Yeah, talk a little bit about the strategic purpose, Emi, because, for those who are joining us or are going to watch post the live event, this is really an important topic, and we're bringing each month a different points of view. So talk to us a little bit about your background. You can jump right into introducing yourself, and then talk to us about the three strategic purposes we're going to cover today.
Yeah, certainly, Alex. Thank you for the introduction. So, hi, everyone. My name is Emi Hutton, and I am a digital accessibility SME, as well as I serve the board of director at the Lighthouse of Bylone on Palm Beaches. But also, I am a person who is a low vision disability. So definitely, having the partnerships and really conversation and really impacting everyone is really my true honor to be here today, but especially for Digital Accessibility Awareness Day. I definitely wanted to talk about this strategic purposes because I can certainly tell you from my experience to work in a corporate world, oftentimes that the companies it's not that they don't want to include or create like an accessibility, but the purpose is like they may not know how to do things, or maybe they're not aware of it. So really these having those three pillars that Alex is showing today is really important to have, that we can go over each of those, and especially having Lisa and also Christopher come on board, we can certainly more deeper dive and talk about this as well.
Okay, great. So I know we have Lisa back with us. Give me 1 second, Lisa, and I'm gonna, before I introduce you, is your mic working, Lisa?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Wonderful.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Perfect.
So,
hi, Lisa.
Hello.
So before I hand it off to Lisa, who, as I mentioned earlier, works in and lives this every day in her work. She leads the Lighthouse of the Palm Beaches, Treasure Coast, and Okeechobee, serving infants, teens, seniors, and everyone in between on their journey to independence. So without further ado, here is Lisa Stella, the Executive Director of the Lighthouse.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for coming and joining us for this important conversation. We feel it's really critical that we start these conversations now because, as you have seen, again, and Alex and Emi have shared with you, the Department of Justice is mandating that we have websites where they're ADA compliant. And that's not a bad thing. People think that that is something that's going to cost a lot of money and it's something that isn't going to be useful to them. But at the end of the day, the return on investment is going to be so great because you'll be able to make your content more available to everyone. And that's really important so that they can patronize your business. The steps to get there are going to be varied depending on what your business is and who you are and what you're doing. So again, as we speak with Amy and Christopher today, they'll be able to help guide us on the things that we need to do. But again, now with this slide that's in front of us, our local mission, we've been around for 80 years. And we have been working from birth to earth. Literally, we have blind babies. We have people who are 103 years old that we work with that are learning new technology or learning independent living skills or need to get orientation and mobility training. It's just the need is out there, and they are consumers and they are people that definitely can participate in our economy. Once you get to know this population and the possibilities, again, like here, risk mitigation with the DOJ, what has happened is there have been fines, there have been legal cases, and we just don't want that to happen. And hopefully now that they have put a halt on it, you have the opportunity to fix what you need. So this way, things can move forward. And then again, with that, you can also then look at the population and see maybe how you can embrace this population and start using them and employing them to actually be part of the solution in your business, with accessibility being key, with them being able to participate in the environment, with them being able to make a difference in your community just by given a chance. So again, you see that there is so much that we need to do in order to make this available for those who cannot access it and for those companies who do not want to be penalized. So let's be proactive and figure out what that looks like. As you can see, the global population and the global compliance frameworks, you can see World Wide Web. These slides are bobbing back and forth. I don't know. It's just like I can't keep up. So it's just, again, Emi, from your point of view, because you've had an international perspective on this, you see the difference it can make and will make, because again, you have an IT background and you've seen and you've actually participated in the environment, and you've been someone who hasn't had accessibility as a factor in what you've been able to do, and you've had to navigate that even though you do need help. Tell me exactly how you see this will make a difference and how it can make a difference from an IT point of view.
Absolutely. So I worked in corporate world as product manager or PMO, and especially for working for organizations where AI participation and many of the organizations that had work for example, was a workforce management system where like an hourly workers, and there's a ton of people who work in there, whether it's the managers or somebody who just working at like Starbucks, right? So I was creating like a software with engineer teams, and then I found out that there are people who are a blind person, low vision like myself, really couldn't do access anything whether using like screen readers or read aloud apps, and it was very challenging. And even simply like documentation, PDF, user guide. And so I really kind of started to look into this and helping organizations, and especially for like C-suites and then a VP level executive that really you know these are people who needs to utilize this. And you can also look at, it's not just like fixing things, patching things, but look at the also economic perspective. You can like tap into like outreach market, and then you can actually increase the user base and you can increase your revenue, which is at the end of the day, this is just a reality, right, Lisa? At the end of the day, a lot of organizations also look into what the revenue to be. So it's really important that it's not just the technology fixing all that, but also look at the overall, how you can actually incorporate that, embedded that from the very start. And then you can tap into the rich market. And as we see 1.3 billion, 1.9 trillion disposal income, it's a massive amount that you can actually bring into your organization revenue. And so here I am, we can talk about all the deeper diving technologies, but having also external testers like the people from Lighthouse Blind, they can actually like proof your like a product and services that, hey, it is disability proof, which is a big thing because a lot of softwares were developed by sighted people, tested by sighted people, using automations. I think it's really important to incorporate that people with a disability to help you better product and services. And back to you, Lisa.
And I think Alex was talking.
Yes, let me reshare the presentation because it was freezing up on me, which is why you were having trouble with it. Today's must be technology challenge day, right? As well.
Yeah, my desktop wasn't working. It refused to have the camera on or the audio, and then my laptop decided to do flash bios.
Okay, so let's do this because I want to bring Christopher into this conversation as well, and we can always go back to some of these. So, Emi, you introduced yourself. So, Christopher, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, all. So, Christopher Bylone. As a background, I have been a former chief diversity officer at 2 different global organizations. And so accessibility was definitely in my wheelhouse and something that I really believe strongly in. And so for me, when I approach this work, to Emi's point, yes, around the economic value that can bring to an organization, it's also the legal part of this all. And Lisa alluded to it a little bit. Yes, the Department of Justice is starting to require organizations to have their websites accessible. But we've been working on this on a global scale for a long time, given the laws that were coming out of Europe. And so, these are things that we have been focused on for many, many years, and it seems like the US government is just starting to kind of catch up to all of this. I think the other thing to make sure that people understand is it's not just about what's on your website. It's about your total ecosystem of how you're showing up online. So your brand colors, are they color contrasted enough so your logo is accessible to folks? When you are not just putting pictures on your website, but when you're putting pictures on your social media channels, are you using alt text? When you are writing your copy for the social media post that you're going to put out there, how many emojis are you using in that post? Are you bolding the text in your social media post? Because when you bold the text, what people don't realize is that bold text for a screen reader turns into a graphic. And so if you were reading the screen, the slide that's on my on the slide here that's representing me, and you were going to read the sentence, unlocking the disability market ROI through user for inclusive UX, and you decided that in your social media post that you were going to bold the words inclusive UX, this is how a screen reader would read it back to you. Unlocking the disability market ROI through graphic. So you may have decided that you wanted to bold inclusive UX because you thought it would highlight it for folks. But what you just did is you created your social media post inaccessible to folks who use a screen reader.
Yeah, I think that Alex, Christopher, that's a really great point. So I can kind of give you a quick what happens recently. So I actually went to Miami Beach Convention Center recently for AI and kind of like a smart coins and Bitcoins conference. And there's like thousands of like exhibit there. And then they had all this wonderful, display as well as really great presentations. And none of them have audio captions. They all have a QR code and Matera, but it wasn't like screen readable, right? I was using a screen reader and it was just returning to like really not chaos. And for me, I have a low vision, so I can see some of the stuff. So really not like some issue may overcome. But for example, I actually asked the conference organizer to say, well, do you have an audio description? Because it's too far from me. I can't see it, what they're doing. So, but there was no audio description was not available. I used my cell phone to do the screen reading and talk back because I use Android. It wasn't working. So it is really important. It's not color context, or it's really important that it's a daily basis work things. It's just really important to have this accessibility compliant to not just the websites everywhere.
Great.
And you'll see that Alex had the slide up for right here. That is an application that looks like a QR code. And if you have the app on your phone, it actually can help you navigate places. We here at the agency can, as soon as you walk through the door, it says, hello, you've reached Lighthouse, and you use that code with your phone in the app. It says you've reached Lighthouse for the Blind, and it may say the address. And when you walk through the door, to the left is the receptionist. If the receptionist is not there, please press the button to the left to let her know that you're here. And then it navigates you through the center as you have the markers. And having that kind of availability and accessibility just helps people who are visually impaired, and actually anybody with any disability, be able to navigate places very safely and successfully. Emi, I think that you said that you have used Right Here, and you have been, that you've done it before in the past in different places. Is that not correct?
Yes, I did. So first of all, yeah, definitely use at the Lighthouse of Blind in Palm Beaches. It is absolutely great. And I see that some airports do implemented this, but not everywhere. But majority of places still lacking it, right, Lisa? So like I said, the great example was the Miami Beach Convention Center recently. This was just really a couple of weeks ago. And exhibit, of course, and then even outside of that building where I was trying to pick up my lift to go back to the Brightline train stations. Well, both places, Brightline didn't have it. Also, same thing as a Miami Beach Convention Center. So for me to pick up the lift ride, it took me an hour and a half because there's a massive people there. Everybody's trying to get out of like a convention center. It took me almost like really couldn't figure it out where like rideshare station's supposed to be, because it was supposed to be one spot, but it was like everybody everywhere. So it would definitely help if this, Right Here app was there, then I could just identify it pretty easily.
Great. I'm going to play the video of one of the Lighthouse's clients. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that I have the sound on so that you guys can hear the video. Okay. Okay. And just stop me if you don't hear the sound. Okay, guys?
One morning, I woke up to get ready for work, and I couldn't see the clock because my vision had gone overnight, and I was just in shock. So my first thought was, my life is over. And I came to the Lighthouse, and they gave me the training that I needed to do all those things for myself that, I thought I was never going to be able to do again. I've been going to golf lessons for several months now, and that is just fantastic. There was no one that was more surprised than I was when I hit that ball. And it's just great. I enjoy it. I'm having a wonderful time with my life now, and I'm even happier than I was when I could actually see. when I speak to my children about it, and they're like, "Dad, we can't believe you do all that stuff," and it just makes me proud that I've kind of overcome this problem that just surprised me one morning. I really feel like the Lighthouse gave me back all those things that losing my vision took away.
Yeah. Lisa, let me bring you back into the conversation here, since you work with the clients every day, and the concept of no one left behind. And of course, we have many other great stories from the Lighthouse. But yeah, if you could just chime in and talk about Mark and others' experience as well.
Again, when somebody loses their sight, they go through a grieving process. We are very fortunate here that we here at the Lighthouse do have help through our social services director. She will help the grieving process and bring them to the next step. So this way they can start looking at, depending on the need, everyone's an individual, what they need to do next to learn how to enjoy the things that they've always loved doing, but in a different way. And that may be learning independent living skills. And that's, again, navigating your kitchen and being able to prepare a meal for yourself, being able to navigate your home, and being able to do things that you always enjoy doing. In addition to orientation and mobility, knowing how to navigate your space safely, learning how to get to and from the grocery store safely, learning how to do different things that are in your neighborhood. Maybe you want to go for a walk and learning how to navigate that safely. There's also other things that really have been game changers for this community. Assistive technology, like Emi was saying before, she was able to use her phone and have the phone tell her what the different signs said, because maybe she couldn't see it with the vision that she has, and it made it a lot easier for her. So we provide services to people with whatever it is that they need to help them be as independent as possible and really truly have a life that they can enjoy, which is really wonderful. The one thing that I want to mention to you, Mark mentioned golf. It was funny because when we put the golf program together over a year and a half ago, the local golf center here, First Tee, had never worked with people who were visually impaired or blind, but they were very willing. And again, our social services director went out there and was able to provide sensitivity training to them. And they came up with really creative ideas and adaptive devices to help people be successful at playing golf, putting bells in the hole. So this way they knew when the ball was in because they could hear it, using the drivers as lining them up. So this way they could hit the ball and have it go, into the hole and stuff. So it was just such a game changer and something so new and wonderful that they could enjoy social activities with others and really participate in life.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Lisa. Christopher, I wanted to bring you back in the conversation here and kind of piggyback on what Lisa was talking about and what the Lighthouse is doing, but also with what you're doing at Innovation Unbiased. The thing that jumped out at me when we first met, and of course, as we introduced you to the team, was your approach to accessibility, inclusivity, and all of that. And the big key word that I saw there was belonging. So talk to us about your approach. And of course, having been in larger Fortune 500 companies, having worked with them, and it's, I would say, somewhat easier to do it when you're a small business. You just have to want to do it. But when you're a larger business, you have to be really intentional. And so you have that experience. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So a lot of questions in there, but let me try to unpack them. First, at Innovation Unbiased, my HR DEI consulting company, we say that we're solving for belonging. So belonging for us is the outcome. And if we're solving for belonging, we need to have some type of formula to solve. And so we say belonging equals equity plus diversity times inclusion to the power of accessibility divided by justice. And so why do we say to the power of accessibility? We say the power of accessibility because accessibility is the exponent, is what is going to raise the bar for everything. It is really the structural component on how you are going to make sure that people can actually interact with your business. As I alluded to at the start of this conversation, was around digital accessibility, but also just thinking about in a past organization, I worked for a company that sold donuts. And one of the questions I would ask the leaders when I started there was, would a consumer be able to come into our shop and order a donut with limited assistance from a colleague, from a staff member? And the answer was no, because the only way that somebody could know what donuts were available for purchase at the time is to visually see them in the case, right? There was no menu that said these are the donuts available today, either in written form or in Braille or any way that they could be interacting with it. So somebody would need to interact in a very intentional way. And so the question I had was then, well, then what are we doing about it? How are we going to solve that, right? Because that's an accessibility issue in and of itself. If somebody can't order a donut the way that we can, right? So I think that there needs to be intentional conversations when you're in an organization, big and small. Alex, I would argue that sometimes smaller organizations, it is actually a lot more difficult because you think it's going to be easy. And sometimes the fixes actually cost more money than you probably have in your budget. And so, especially, as organizations are trying to bring their buildings up to code, there may be things where they have to think about the cost, which is unfortunate. But that's one of the reasons why I always advocate for universal design, making sure that you are designing with everybody right at the forefront of how you're designing things, so that you don't have to go back and retrofit something, because it actually costs you more to retrofit than it does just to design it right from the beginning inclusively.
And can
Yeah.
you talk?
Sorry, can I add to that? I
Please
think
go.
it's great for Christopher to mention that, because I have actually experienced really very, very similar. Like, for example, the conference example was, I was at the food court. I couldn't see the menu because it's around on the far top somewhere. I took a photo to see if I can just see the menu. There was no QR code that I can just scan through it so I can see from the phone. There wasn't any there. And as far as that, embedded accessibility, inclusive and universal design, I also work on like software companies where, all the developers, they make a great codes, but for the accessibility perspective, 70% fails because, like I said, it's all the automations or development done by sighted people, and then people who are, when they QA testing, they're not really using external like a QA tester, like somebody who's a lived experience. So, which really not making any sense that making accessible for everybody. So I really like the Christopher's point.
Thank you, Emi. So we talked a little bit about the strategic landscape, the cultural shift. Emi, you provided some lived experience. For a question for both Christopher and Emi is about the ROI, because you touched on that, Christopher, about how it, for smaller companies, there may be some barriers with budgets. But talk about those market numbers we shared, the 1.9 trillion in disposable income, 1.3 billion people. Beyond having empathy and caring and being inclusive and wanting people to belong, talk about the ROI and how you can actually add to the bottom line by doing all this good.
So I think one of the things another statistic that I would add in there is that 80% of consumers worldwide want to give their money to businesses that are inclusive. And so here is an opportunity for you to be going after folks who want to know that the organization that they're buying product from is doing it in an inclusive way. And so when you think about the market share that's out there, when you're trying to go after every single dollar that you possibly can, because I get it, you're in business, you want to make more money, right? And I absolutely want you to make as much money as possible. We'll do it in the most inclusive way possible, right? So when you're thinking about, the disability community that has all of the disposable income, why aren't you going after it? Because if your website's not accessible, they can't give you their money. And so if you're not going to think about it from a right thing to do from a humanity perspective, think about how you're going to attract more dollars into your organization. I know that may seem cynical, but in my role when I was, and even now, my job was to make my companies more money. Right? We live in a capitalistic society. Unfortunately, money makes the world go round. And so the only way that we're going to be able to survive is by having money in our checking accounts and savings accounts. And so my job was to make sure that the organizations that I worked for and now partner with, that they are going to make as much money as possible, but I want them to do it in the most inclusive, accessible way. And so that's how we approach this work. So just be thinking about that as you're going about, when you're looking at your doorway, right? But also go beyond. If you are an organization that has a physical location, can they get to your door on the sidewalk that you are on? Right? If your sidewalk, I come from the Northeast, and so after a winter, a lot of times the sidewalks are so uneven because of the freeze and thaw. Well, maybe you need to go, not maybe, you have to go advocate to the city officials to fix that sidewalk because somebody could not maybe traverse that. Are the curb cutouts, are they operational? Do the lights that are around your block, do they, the crosswalks, do they have, the noise, the sound that tells people that they can walk, or the flashing lights? If they don't, maybe somebody isn't going to come walk down that sidewalk to come visit your store. So the accessibility features for business do not stop at your doorway, right? They extend into society. And so you need to ask yourself, and this is where kind of accessibility and equity works together, is how can people get to your store? If they can't physically get to your store, then how are they going to be able to patron what you are selling them?
Thanks for that input. How about you, Emmy, on your side? How do you square that up when you are talking to executives, leadership, about the ROI?
Yeah, definitely first. So my case, I had to really convince and do the executive buying. So I was getting a lot of pushbacks, right? We don't have any resources. We don't have budget for this year. We don't know how to do this. This is going to cost us a lot of money. So my perspective is that, you can certainly start from you don't have to do everything in one shot. This is like really ongoing journey. It's never going to stop. You just have to continue work on it. And you can kind of prioritize what is the most important thing and what people needed to be done or need to get things done. So I think just prioritizing so that you can actually get your ROI. And then, again, you start it from now because, of course, the ADA mandate comes up next year, 2027. This is time to really start a plan. And so, for me, like, my teams, I do the sprint planning for accessibility. Prior to this, many of the organizations I work for, they never had like the roadmaps for accessibility or even like localization, globalization, which is a part of the accessibility to make sure you have like the multi-language available. Captions available if you have like a user guide. So I think just prioritizing and so you can kind of like budget correctly for per sprint or annually, and that helps your organization to kind of get this journey going on as well. And of course, I do a lot of AI stuff as well, where AI social listening, disability community is a very close community. So for example, anything like negative goes in viral, it is so hard for you guys to get your positive sentiment like in the Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those social media really, put you as a negative sentiment will be difficult, and that kind of equals to your return of your investment as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Emi. Lisa, I want to bring you back in before we kind of wrap it up and then open it up to questions. We really want to give enough time for us to have any conversations that the attendees are wondering about. So wanted for you to share some of the events that are coming up, because these are important and strategic for the community, for the clients that you all serve here in South Florida.
Yes, and we're really excited to say we are launching for the first time, June, July, and August, a Lunch and Learn series. We have partnered with a local eye clinic, Middleman Eye, and the gentleman who is going to be the force behind this Lunch and Learn series is Dr. Stephen Edens, who is on our board. And we are going to start talking about eye health and protecting your eyes, because it's just so important to start being proactive. Just because grandma had macro degeneration probably means that you will get it too, but you can halt that progress by doing the right thing for your eyes, protecting your eyes. Your eyes can get sunburned, eating right, making sure you get exercise and do the right things for your body to keep it healthy and keep your eyes healthy. So we're excited about that. We've never done that before. So that's what we're doing in the summer. And in September, just an awareness thing, we're doing a floral arranging workshop with a local florist, Wellington florist. They're working with us to do that. And, you come, you find out more about the Lighthouse, but you get a chance to enjoy a group activity and go home with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. So just something different and fun to drive awareness for our 80th anniversary year. But our big thing is White Cane Day on October 15th. We will have an event here locally in Palm Beach at Swampgrass Willie's. It will be a fundraiser. They are giving a percentage of their proceeds to us. They will be opening their happy hour from 11 to 7. They serve sandwiches and cocktails and burgers and all that good stuff. And they're up in Palm Beach Gardens. And then we will be having something in the northern counties. We thought we'd be at Tutto Fresco, but it looks like we're going to do something a little bit different, but we'll keep you posted on that because we're still planning on that. And then, of course, our 80th anniversary is December 3rd, and we'd love to have you come and celebrate with us. Our gala is going to be at the Pelican Club in Jupiter. So we have a lot of different activities to bring awareness, and locally at the center on September 30th, too, we will be having an open house. So we will also show what it is we do in order to help people be able to navigate this landscape, depending on what their abilities are and how they can be successful. So you'll get a chance to work with our different instructors and see what they teach and how they teach and what it is they help people achieve. And you'll see great outcomes. So, I invite you to please come join us when you can, because again, knowing what's going on makes it available to you and anybody that you know and all of your loved ones. But again, we're changing the community and we're changing it for all the right reasons in such a positive way.
Thank you, Lisa. And so we had a question about the September event. What date is that? Is that September 1st?
September 30.
30. Okay, because there was a 1 there. That's why I think they asked. No problem. Okay. Great. So before I open it up to questions, I just want to kind of do a recap of, what we were doing here today, guys. It was the Accessibility Awareness Day that we are celebrating globally. If you go on their website, which I'm going to put the link in here as well, there are events all around the world, hundreds of events. So the good news is that there's a lot of people like Emi, like Christopher, like Lisa, who are working to really deliver the services that are needed for this population, right? But we talked about risk mitigation, market ROI, lived experience, the digital experiences. Obviously, we'll keep building on the DOJ ruling and ADA compliance for your websites, digital documents, whatnot. Christopher also talked about universal design. We're going to add that stat that he gave, which is 80% of people want to do business or transact with companies who are catering to the disabled. And he gave some solid examples as well, which I really loved. So before we open it up to questions, any takeaways, Christopher or Emi, that you guys want to end it on or with?
Sure. I mean, I can go first, and perhaps Christopher, you can go next. But I mean, definitely the partnership with the Lighthouse of Bylone, it's definitely a benefit. And then also really my another mission is to kind of help people who are at the maybe member of the Lighthouse, creating like economic opportunities. Like, I mentioned to you earlier about having the external testers. They're the best people. They can resolve. They can tell you what's wrong with it, what needed to be fixed. And then I'm a product manager and the PMO in that perspective, having those really help you, like what needs to be prioritized and fix those things, right? It's because this accessibility is not just about the compliance. It's about ongoing journey to how you can implement it and seamlessly and open to everyone, and everybody can use your product and services.
The other thing that I would add also is those who are committed to this work and want to make sure that you are also giving people meaningful employment. One of the things that I would caution you on is make sure your organization is designed for somebody who has visual impairment, right? Because if you hire somebody and they can't use your systems to do their job, you are creating a discriminatory act just by hiring them and not have done the work beforehand, right? So it used to be many, many years ago, organizations were just like, let's hire people with disabilities and then we'll figure it out later. Actually, you really need to figure out your organization and to make sure that you are ready. You don't need to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you do need to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that when you are providing meaningful employment to somebody, they actually can do their job with the technology and the equipment that you have for them to do it. So I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And then, for example, for the Lighthouse, right, they're also partner with like the Division of Blind Services, and in many organizations you can actually leverage that. DBS provide like the free tools like MVA or MDA or Zoom Text or anything that the people who you hire as an employee, that you can leverage those tools without any additional cost, right, Christopher? So I think, having that conversation with DBS in your local area, it's really important that for HR folks to, understand how do you hire people, what do you do after you hire, how do you continue those people to be successful.
Perfect. Before I hand it off to Lisa, I just had one question here, and then anyone else, if you all have questions, please put them in the chat. But one question that I had directly to me was perhaps for you, Emi, and Christopher as well, in terms of whether it's digital accessibility or otherwise, are there tools or guides or anywhere where you can do like an audit? So I know for Christopher, you might have some guides, and Emi as well. So I think this person's looking for more like, how do I know I'm compliant all across? Where do they start?
So I would say if so a couple things. There are some really great websites out there and good organizations that can help you. So one organization that I would highlight is Level Access, and they can come in and do a deep dive on your website and other tools that you are using to make sure that they're as accessible as they can be. There's some good color contrast websites out there that you can go put in as you're creating documents, and you can say this is the background color, and this is the font color, and it will tell you if it will work. So those are some really easy things to do. I would also look at the WCAG, the web accessibility standards. They're definitely something that I would start there and understand what they are. It sometimes can be a very cumbersome document, but it is very, very informative.
Yeah, definitely. I agree on the Christopher as well. But also like, some of the organization, if in an enterprise, you do have some funding availability to do those, but like maybe smaller organization may not have enough, funding, then you can definitely start from the WCAG. And then also they do have some free source, open source, like, Wave and stuff like that. I mean, you can probably start from there, then maybe like professional like the Level Access or DQ or the other organization to kind of help. But that might be your starting point and have a Wave or any other tools to really identify where you are and perspective on that.
I just want to chime in for 1 second. Olivia has had her hand up for a while, so I think she has a question for the team.
Go for it.
Hi, yes, I'm Olivia. I work in accessibility, marketing, Android strategy and policy. I'm obviously UK based, so I obviously joined virtually. I also work in accessible network marketing, so around the travel industry as well. So kind of all bits around accessibility and marketing and voice for the business in general. I have a question. So in regard to the revenues and compliance going forward and policy around accessibility, would you say that the accessibility in an organization is there, but they're too scared to admit that it's not being put into action and it's not being effective enough to see that there is change?
Christopher or Emi, do you guys want to take a crack at that?
Sure, I think that's a hard question to answer because I would say that organizations are probably going to be a little cautious about sharing where there are gaps, just because that could potentially open them up to legalities that they don't necessarily want. However, what I will say is organizations that care about this and are working towards it, they're going to tell you where they are at in their journey, and they're going to be honest about what gaps they have. And but what I will also say is that when they identify a gap, what is the action plan that they're taking to fill said gap? And so that's where I would probably reframe the question is more around what are organizations do to fill the gap? Because we know there's a gap. That's why we have this day, right? There is already a gap. We know it. We know it's there. We see it every day, right? We can interact with it every day. So the question is not, are they being public enough about the gap? It's what is their plan to fill said gap?
Yeah, I think that's also really great point that Christopher is saying. And I see also organization that they're putting like accessibility statement on their websites, right? But what exactly mean? I mean, they can put a statement and say, well, we're working on it, but if it's not really working on those gaps to close, then what is the point? So yeah, that's a really kind of hard questions to answer, Olivia.
Thank you for the question, Olivia and Christopher. Yeah, that was really, you put it in a nice way. Well, Lisa, if there are no more questions, I wanted to just let you close it out with something positive. I know you always have something great to say so that we're all, excited about the future here.
Again, I just want to say thank you to Emi, Christopher, Alex, Joan, and the team for putting this webinar together. So this way we can start talking about things that are really important that we have to address and get in front of. We are all part of this community and we all deserve to be able to enjoy everything that the community has to offer. So by us working together and getting ahead of these ADA requirements, we're just making more access available to everyone. And that's really, truly our goal. So as we continue this conversation and bring other thought leaders in, please join us, because we want to continue to uncover things that we can work on together collectively so we can really, truly make a difference for all. And I just say thank you so much for joining us today.